Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting Propagandacast. And as some of you might have noticed, there's something slightly different. I've gotten a widescreen monitor now, yes indeed, so now it'll be in a higher resolution and with widescreen for those that want, so huzzah, hurrah, and all that. But let's not tarry about. Let's get straight to the action. It's a 2 vs 2 on rails and metals. Yes indeed, it's been some time since we've seen rails and metals, so of course that'll be a bit fun again. Rails and metals sort of elongated map. Yes, indeed, quite so. And of course, with all the 3 victory points in a sort of short line right here by the center, although 2 of them. And of course, this is the rather important one of the buildings can in fact cover both of them, which rather presents a bit of a tactical and strategic advantage. Of course, means this building is pretty damn important for all sides. And of course also means that this area tends to be the most fought over. Some fight will usually also be here, but usually you don't see quite as much as you do here. So of course that is vital to note. And with that out of the way, let's go look at our opponents. In the southern we are seeing Staristara and Mr. Pokajnik. Yes indeed, the British 43rd Infantry Division, making a small attachment to the 3rd Infantry Division. Opposing them is the 91st Luftlandedivision Division, with a bit of aid from the 10th SS Panzer Grenadier Divisions, probably its Ausklungsabteilung. A small combat attachment from there as well, and in fact, why not get right down to it? And of course we're seeing Vexial and KriegDasvaterland right here again. Yes indeed, they are a bit of a few regulars, I suppose. Although I have noticed lately that KriegDasvaterland seems to be a little bit, quite frankly, slacking off. So quit that KriegDasvaterland and be a proper German officer and get your act together, or it's a trip to the Eastern Front for you. Now then, infantry section heading eastwards. Kettenkrad also sort of heading southwards. So far nothing unusual. What with these sort of strategies being applied, and well, here of course is something a bit more different from what we've seen lately. It is a weapon support, and then of course means the American will go for a more supportive stance. At least in the beginning, he'll probably then go either into Rangers or airborne, because they'll usually want some sort of infantry, because again, you damn well need infantry no matter what. In this case, they'll probably go for something again more elite, something a bit more tougher. Of course, we'll have to see what KriegDasvaterland and Vexial will be up to, although we are seeing a logistic company already up for Vexial, and going straight for the fuel point right there, although he's probably not expecting to hold it long. And Kettenkrad already coming under fire from the reconnaissance section. Brave Tommy's advancing. Not looking good for the Kettenkrad. Kettenkrad making a hurried getaway while the infantry section is right there occupying. And why is he doing that? Well, of course, he's probably A, hoping to deny any sort of German MGs, but he could also be sort of occupying there until an American MG could be on the way. And there we go. Army is already on the way, locking that heavy 30 caliber Browning water-cooled machine gun. Kettenkrad still sneaking a bit of territory about. KriegDasvaterland advancing. Volksgrenadiers leading survey. Good show there. And some Panzer Grenadiers arriving on the field. Boots on the ground. Good show, good show. And there we go. Headquarters command truck setting up right there by the munitions point, probably. Perhaps had sort of hoped to set up on the fuel point, but as you might have noticed, someone decided to cap that. You stupid kid. Oh, well, not really. I mean, that sort of depends on the viewpoint. And there we go, Panzer Grenadiers advancing. But infantry section, reconnaissance chaps are quick to get into the building. Of course, the broadside right there. And of course, that of course is vital to net our buildings. Let's just briefly walk over it. I mean, in a sort of a building concept, I like to consider this sort of window here, the broadside, because again, it has the most windows. And that's the sort of one type of side that's most useful for infantry. Then you sort of have the shorter side that's more for automatic weapons, where it's all about just really getting a lot of shots out, where this is more about broad frontage and of course allows you more infantry. So of course that's sort of the thing to remember. I mean, if you're seeing a building with only, I mean, this many windows on either side, I mean, don't bother. But on the other hand, I mean, it's sort of like this, depending on the situation, it can actually do quite a bit. But let's return to the fight. Panzer Grenadiers running away. Reconnaissance section hot on the heels. My goodness, my goodness. And what are we seeing? We are seeing a Sonderkraftfahrzeug 221. Leichte Panzer Spähwagen, only with a machine gun though. Advancing through the hinterlands. Well, not really. And there we go, opening up with its machine gun. It's actually able to do a bit more damage than the infantry half-track, although the turret is pretty damn slow to turn about. And there we go, 30 cal machine gun up. Pioneers taking damage. KriegDasvaterland, get your pioneers out of there, you stupid. And no, question is, did they snipe or did they not? Although something is telling me he probably did snipe. Not a bad thing, of course, if you're seeing a unit retreating and it's just down to one man. Pop around and voila, you've just denied your opponent an entire infantry team while he thought he could get it away. Heavy machine gun sending up. The 91st Luftwaffe Division providing with some heavier machine gun fire, getting those Tommies out of the way, although currently they can't really break through here. Heavy machine gun again sort of providing a nice area of don't move in there, you stupid bastard. While the Brits are sort of hanging about right behind, ready to move out, although they are going to need a lieutenant who is conveniently on the way. In the meanwhile, Volksgrenadiers are pushing onwards right here, getting stopped down by an engineer. Another MG42 on the way from KriegDasvaterland, and something further coming out. While the Kettenkraut still sneaks about, seizing territory. Panzer Grenadiers advancing. 30 caliber opening up. Oh dear. But looks like it had to reload just as the Panzer Grenadiers were out in the open. That was quite convenient. And incendiary grenades have been researched. Going right in, burning the heavy machine gunners. Oh dear, that's going to be very hot. Too hot for the water coolant right there. And heavy machine gun was lost very, very quickly, actually. And no, don't go into the building when it's on fire. Didn't you teach you that somewhere in common sense school? Looks like he's not doing it. Good, good. Small victory right there, I'd say. Volksgrenadiers holding the line here, although a heavy machine gun is setting up right there, out in the middle of the road. Volksgrenadiers, KriegDasvaterland, quick. Although I might have recommended him actually getting into that building, but there you go. And engineers getting stopped right there by the bike, which means that KriegDasvaterland currently only has one infantry team. Looks like the scout car is doing a bit of harassment. More Panzer Grenadiers, some setting up with a Panzer Jäger command. There we go, heavy machine gun advancing. Volksgrenadiers sort of hanging about right there, not quite sure what they want to do. Perhaps shout a few taunts. And looks like the heavily wounded reconnaissance team was securing a bit of territory once more. And we are seeing a mortar emplacement up again. This is sort of the nice thing again, this sort of building right here providing, and of course the trees sort of providing some nice blockage, where it makes it a bit hard to actually get to this mortar emplacement, at least directly. And scout car doing a bit of harassment continually. Kettenkraut sneaking out, Panzer Grenadiers getting ready. Perhaps they could be launching an assault. That could work. That could work if they decide to do so. Volksgrenadiers not doing much. Pioneers not doing much either. Not really much happening from KriegDasvaterland at all, except he's laying down observation posts. And ostensibly it looks like he's putting up munitions, which rather means there's going to be a lot of abilities, there's going to be lots of explosives, fire, doom, and more fire. So rather interesting than that. Although I can't have helped but figure he might have wanted more infantry. Heavy machine gun setting up. Scout car goes up in smoke and brimstone, and the heavy machine gun sets up, but there's too much infantry, it will get flooded. And it's out light cover only, and the Brits make it into heavy cover, and a Bren gun is up. Oh dear, this heavy machine gun team is, oh dear. KriegDasvaterland again, sharpen up. You don't put a heavy machine gun up without infantry for it to support and for the infantry to shield it. Instead, you just might have handed the opponent an MG after they lost their own to Vexial's incendiary grenades. That's not proper. Further Panzer Grenadiers advancing, machine gun chaps setting up right behind the red car, and there we go. Britons are stealing the heavy machine gun and making a run for it. There are probably some cockney bastards there, yes indeed. And there we go, making a hurried dash for it. Mortar rounds flying and forcing the Panzer Grenadiers away. And KriegDasvaterland laying down a bunker and sort of trying to look innocent. Well, it wasn't my MG42. It sort of just curiously materialized. Well, not quite. And looks like the Americans are themselves going up for some machine gun emplacements. Curious that. In particular when there's a heavy machine gun right there as well. Definitely very curious. And there's one on there as well. I'm not entirely sure I'm liking that. But the British MG42 advancing, ready to give Jerry a bit of his own whip. And looks like the scout car's on the way, while the Volksgrenadiers are getting gunned down, sending them in on their own. Volksgrenadiers are not grenadiers or stormtroopers or knights crossholders. They need some damn support, or at least they need numbers.
Aerial recon is now available.
They aren't the sort of chaps you send in on their own to sort of do commando heroics. And once more Vexial is sending in a scout car, but why? Why, Vexial? Why are you sacrificing your scout car? Are you hoping to get the lieutenant? Has he really bothered you that much? And there we go, a second scout car lost for absolutely no reason. And a third one on the way. Vexial used to be decently competent. Looks like a scout bike is holding up some engineers, but nothing else. Medic bunker up from KriegDasvaterland. Sturm Armory on the way, although that could work. Scout car number 3 advancing right once more into the muck of things, getting once more hit quite a bit. MG42 firing away, keeping some panzer grenades down, but others are sneaking in. Incendiary grenade on the house. Oh my goodness, another house is on fire, and so are the chaps inside. But in this case, they all survive heroically and manage their way out. Back to old Blighty, well, not quite, but back at least for a cup of tea and a biscuit. Panzer grenades still hanging about, being quite nice targets, though I'd rather recommend those chaps get away. Others are advancing. What are they doing? Running straight up to the light machine guns, and again, unless it's an MG42, do not run straight up to an LMG or any sort of automatic weaponry. Automatic weaponry usually means they can fire a lot of bullets, and when that happens, the closer you get, the more of them will tend to hit. So again, do not get close to automatic weaponry, except if it's an MG42 for some reason. Panzer grenades firing away, hiding inside the building. Bren guns and still using that nice wreckage of the scout car for cover. Again, I mean, use it if you can. It can always help. The less you die, the better. Another scout car sort of hanging back, and it looks like something's going on in the Panzer Support Command. Nothing going on much with KriegDasvaterland either. He's being incredibly passive. Again, the sort of thing I don't like to see. A fuel point there.
Enemy unit down.
It looks like a heavy armored car is on the way. And a Hotchkiss, apparently the 101st Panzer Replacement and Reserve Battalion has provided some of its Hotchkiss light tanks. Will the Hotchkiss advance upon the British horde? And there we go, firing away. 1 hit, 2 kills. Absolutely amazing. Another goes down. Heavy armored car forcing away the Yankees. Or Yankees, whatever. And looks like the Britons are rather realizing that Bren guns are nothing against the might of the Hotchkiss, or at least light French armor. As that was what the Hotchkiss was. Light French armor alongside the Renault 35, which looked pretty much similar. The only difference was the Hotchkiss was used for a lot of conversions and some self-propelled artillery business like this with rockets on the side. Renault were just basically handed out to every Axis ally that didn't want them, because, well, the Germans didn't want them either, and the Allies were screaming for tanks. Then the Germans gave them Renault 35. Looks like the armored car is heading back towards here to force away the Allies. Medics moving about. This could mean that KriegDasvaterland actually gets some bloody infantry and a Sturmgeschützwehr. Probably gotten that from the 10th SS, who had some, though they didn't have a Sturmgeschützabteilung. Their Panzer unit was actually, or the Panzer regiment was actually pretty depleted. They only had, well, 1 battalion, and that was a mix of Panzer Force and Stooks. Not sure which sort of Stooks, I'll have to look up on that. And here, actually, here's a sort of clever trick, and that's actually the one of the primary reasons I wanted to show this game, because it rather featured it. What do you do if the enemy is at your doorstep, at your headquarters command truck, and he's going to do something nasty? You pack up the truck, then you retreat. What happens then? They run away. I mean, in 2 versus 2s, they'll run closest to your allied headquarters. If you're in a 1 versus 1, it'll be straight back to the sort of point where all your units will be arriving from off-map reinforcements. Pretty clever right there. And again, a very nice trick for most people to know, I'm sure. And I'm sure many British players will be very keen on knowing it. So I hope you learned something from that right there. More Hotchkiss advancing, while the other one is firing away. And looks like, yes, we are in fact seeing KriegDasvaterland being a bit more active. Hooray! About damn time too. Sturmgeschütz advancing. And looks like we are hearing some rockets howling, just as the Brits are running back to their base. What you call a bit unfortunate, mortar emplacement knocked out, but sappers are there with the Piats. The Piat being a bit of a curious sort of anti-tank weapon, not a rocket weapon, but a sort of more of a spring-loaded sort of weapon. Fires it more of like a mortar round, and of course that allows it for parabolic arcs, which allows it of course to fire over barrage and buildings and all that, which rather gives it some curious advantages. Plus, among other things, you can actually hit a rear arm of a unit by firing from the front of it. I mean, that's sort of what can actually happen. But now the Hotchkisses are forced away, the Piat being too much for them, sappers advancing very cautiously, lieutenants moving in, quite a few lieutenants. That's going to be a bit confusing. And my goodness, a Churchill Mark IV advancing with the 6-pounder gun opening up, and that's certainly also going to be a bit of a problem for the Churchill tanks. And KriegDasvaterland, what the bloody hell are you doing? Put it down a bunker right there. Knock that off, mate. I said knock it off. Oh well. Churchill advances, apparently not caring that a concrete bunker is going down right next to it. And KriegDasvaterland apparently not caring there's a bloody Churchill right next to his bunker. Why on earth? Anyways, let's go look at KriegDasvaterland and see what's going on in his head. Storm armoring up and... well, nothing really except he's setting up a repair bunker. I mean, it's nice and dandy to sort of try and support your teammate, but, and why no, there isn't any infantry for the armor weight. There we are. Good. But, you know, try to be a bit more sort of, you know, aware of the context of the things, and when there's a Churchill running straight past it, you know, that might not be the best time, you know. And it looks like the Americans have got themselves some tank destroyers and elite infantry. Again, the sort of usual thing, airborne sneaking about. M10 having a bit of trouble with the Stug, apparently, and again, that's sort of again the thing. Do not try to face off German armor from the front. Always try to flank, and that's rather what the M10 and M18 were about. They were about speed and hitting the German armor where it wasn't quite as armored, that is the side or the rear. And a registered artillery barrage right here on all of this nice squishy British infantry. Absolutely amazing. Oh my goodness, bloody hell. It's a massacre. British dying, flying through the air. Churchill pulling back. Scout car knocked out. Vexial not really getting much out of them. And the Hotchkiss firing off a salute. While the Stug is moving in. And it looks like the heavy armor car has been upgraded to a Puma. From that. And the oh my goodness, the Churchill gun absolutely bloody well knocked out. Being behind only the M10 to get out of there very quickly. And the repair bunker got knocked out because, again, you know, context, the situation. Don't place it up when there's enemies right next to it. No matter how close to your teammate's base it is. And I do believe it's time for the mid-game analysis. Yes, indeed, what is the current situation? Well, currently the Allies are sort of having it. They hold most of the map, although they just lost at Churchill. They certainly also lost quite a bit of infantry to those defensive artillery barrages. Right, nice there by KriegDasvaterland. But at the same time, they're sort of in a defensive posture. They're sort of taking losses as well. And Vexial is rather taking most of the beating, since he's rather the focus of the two allies. While KriegDasvaterland isn't really doing much to sort of grab the attention, to sort of push forwards. Although at the same time, I mean, Staristara has rather made one mistake. I mean, yes, supporting can work, but not when you spread it out and sort of do nothing with all of those resources. And that's rather what Staristara's problem is. His manpower sort of split up over the entire area. Not good. I mean, you want to concentrate your resources for sort of, you know, solid pushes, and that's what only the British player is doing. And that's not really helping either, while Staristara is just sort of casually throwing away his troops. Not good at all. And of course not throwing armor away like that either, and again facing off at the front. Again, American armor was not the sort of armor to sort of take on German armor from the front. They're not Panthers, they're not Tigers. They're Shermans and they're M10s and M18s. They were not thickly armored. If you want to complain, go take a time machine and complain to the US Armor Department or whatever it was called. But that's about it. But let us return to the fight. Hotchkiss is advancing, and apparently they have upgraded with the slightly more impressive guns. Heavy machine gun knocked out, that was quite unfortunate, and another M10 blown to bits. Another one bites the dust. False grenades are getting torn to bits by the airborne, need to retreat. Even with For the Fatherland, they're not going to make it. Unless they retreat. Sturmgeschütz 4 repaired. Now the Puma just needs it. No further upgrades. Got a bit of manpower and fuel, and that could certainly be used for something. KriegDasvaterland, you know. And looks like Vexial once more is pulling all the weight and pushing forwards. Yes, indeed. Good show there, Vexial. And looks like an Everwerf has arrived and some further Sturmgeschütz, but we're not really seeing them on the front lines. That's rather the problem, you know. He has a lot, but he's not really pulling his weight with it. The British are advancing, but the Hotchkisses and the light to tank half tank, perhaps with focused fire or not. Firing away, providing quite a bit of barrage right there. And Luftwaffe troops have arrived to repair and pull together those Hotchkiss tanks. Good show. Perhaps the 17th Luftwaffe Felddivision or just some Luftwaffe troops pulled in from whatever they were doing and told to knock it off and actually fight the enemy. Sabres advancing. Oh dear, that's quite a lot of Sabres, quite a lot of Piets, but the wehrmacht is dodging in. Why are the Luftwaffe troops not joining in the fight? Why are they not firing? I mean, they could do a lot better than trying to fix those almost pretty much fully repaired tanks. I mean, Luftwaffe troops are decent infantry if you know bloody well use them. But looks like Fallschirmjägers have arrived. That's only going to prove quite a surprise. While the Sturmgeschützsphere is mucking about. Engaging the M10. How shall this go off? And looks like some grenadiers have been reformed, meaning yes, KriegDasvaterland has a bit more infantry. Hurrah! Huzzah! And another Hotchkiss salute. And again, don't fight from the front. Yeah, that's rather how you want to do it. You want to flank, not, force an attack from the front. The Stug 4 had some. The Stugs generally had some pretty thick armor. And of course, a bit sloped, which rather made them a bit more difficult to deal with from the front. And looks like the headquarters command truck is repeating the trick, sending away its infantry, but still sticking to the fuel for King George and the Commonwealth. Stug 4 pulling out there for some repairs. Airborne and engineers holding the west cleared, apparently. While Vexial is pushing through here in the east. My goodness. And let us go have a look at Vexial and see what he's up to. Quite a bit of manpower and fuel, Vexial, you could use it. Again, spend your resources unless you have something very specific in mind. Again, use it. There's no point in sort of saving resources up for some sort of magic eventuality. If you want to have a sort of treasure trove, say 300 manpower, not 700. That's at least my, professional opinion. Semi-professional, amateur, bloated. Anyhow, looks like a heavy machine gun has been set up there, and Hotchkiss is once more opening up and advancing. The Brits have been forced to abandon these, and looks like further Luftwaffe troops are arriving. Looks like the heavy machine gunners are forced away. Airborne holding out in the trench, getting covered in grenades. Only one dies, though, and the grenadiers are standing out in the open. Not really where you want to be standing. I mean, Christ, you could have put down some sandbags. That would have helped. And Wirbelwinds are ready, but will they be called in? Will they be called in is the primary question here again. Why is Vexial storing that much resources, and why the bloody hell isn't using it? British advancing, and looks like they... oh dear, they're retreating back to the headquarters command truck right as the artillery hits. That's what you call a reverse of the previous situation, and what you also call pretty bad, but it looks like they went 2 heavy losses. And looks like KriegDasvaterland has been able to force out the Americans, and he's... oh my goodness, he's actually getting more infantry now. Brilliant, albeit quite a bit too late, I feel. Americans dropping down some anti-tank guns. M10 moving in to advance the support the British wave. Waving the Union Jack, or at least they are sort of in their minds. M10 moving in. Oh, so much fun. Panzer Grenadiers dying. Smoke everywhere. Well, not this sort of covering smoke, but gun smoke. Rockets flying and a bit of damage. Oh dear, the M10 almost out. Nebelwerfer fire, I suspect, naturally. Yes, indeed. KriegDasvaterland has been providing some Nebelwerfer support, but sadly we haven't been seeing much of it. Stug 4 advancing. Running straight into a minefield, damaging in its engine and exposing its rear. That's what you can only call unfortunate. Not entirely sure why KriegDasvaterland insists on sending in its assault guns without the infantry for it to support. And there we go, Stug 4 out of control. Quite tragic. And goodbye. Volksgrenadiers on the full retreat. M10 advancing, veteran 1 and catching that Nebelwerfer out in the open. Oh dear. But let us go return to Pokajnik, our British friend, who is doing what? Reinforcing a lot of his infantry, I suspect. Or what is he? No armor command track. Actually quite interesting. Oh wait, there he is. We're seeing a... oh, kangaroo. Something tells me this isn't going to end well. Nebelwerfer barely survived the wrath of the M10, which ran straight into all of this. which the M10 had no chance of surviving. Puma sort of casually lazing about. KriegDasvaterland's 91st Luftwaffe infantry hanging back in the base. Well, Luftwaffe, but sort of Luftwaffe Division infantry. Luftwaffe troops advancing. Will they be fighting? Panzer grenadiers putting up a Panzer command. Will they be moving? And 14 Jaegers advancing as well, coming under fire from an anti-tank gun. And looks like a bit of fighting going on here. Engineers cleared out. Goodness gracious. Looks like rather the Allies have lost a bit of steam. But they're apparently hoping to drive through with a kangaroo. 14 Jaegers advancing, hoping to clear out that anti-tank gun, but they're running straight into Hornet's Nest and taking quite a bit of fire. Losing 2 men before the rest are forced to retreat. And more Hotchkiss light tanks have apparently arrived. That's a bit more peculiar. Normally you see Panthers at this stage or even before that, but Hotchkisses it is then. Certainly fun to note. And looks like an advance from KriegDasvaterland coming under heavy fire. Infantry section coming under fire. Quite a bit of heavy artillery going on there. Luftwaffe 14 Jaegers advancing. Popping out of the building and into it. Firing away at the airborne who are not looking quite so good out in the open. While in the west the M10 is rather floundering as well because it's not a tank. Although at the same time there's not really much threatening until this Stuke 4 advances. Hooray! And looks like a satchel charge being used against the 14 Jaegers. Will the 14 Jaegers... Oh dear, they won't. Yet one of them survives. That's what counts, I suppose. Although the building looks pretty banged up after that. And a Hotchkiss blown up. Looks like the Vexial's losing quite a bit all of a sudden. Hotchkiss Stuke advances against the M10 heavy machine gun firing away. Airborne dropping in. More machine guns getting manned. What on earth is going on? And the rest are coming under fire while the heavy machine gun is trying to suppress the advancing infantry. Grenadiers getting close. M10 knocked out. Grenade getting launched. Lobbed. Airborne dying. Oh dear. Artillery smashing the ground, sundering all the allies upon it. And there we go. The charge of the kangaroos. Machine guns blazing. Piets flying. M10s charging. So the anti-tank guns. My goodness. Vexial's right flank utterly collapsed, while the forces of the Britons are advancing. Hotchkiss is making a run for it. Looks like one. My goodness, one kangaroo goes down. And looks like the Hotchkiss will be sacrificed in the process. Quite unfortunate. Destroyed engine on the kangaroo. Good show. And immobilized while the other Hotchkiss is out of control and crashes into the half-track. Will the half-track make it out of there? No. M10 arrives to support as well. What will the Allies do now? Puma to the rescue from the rear, and so is a Stuke, but no further veterans forward. And never for fire everywhere. Puma knocked out. Oh dear. And the M10 moves into the base and crashes into the Panzer support command. And a strafing run because it spotted the base. And my goodness. Heavy losses for all the ones involved there. In particular, the Luftwaffe troops seem to have suffered quite heavily. Quite a few of them sprawled around. Not a happy sight. And looks like another Churchill has been called in to salvage the situation for the British. But I'm not entirely sure there's much to salvage. Stuke for advancing. More rockets. Always rockets, it seems, from Vexial. And another Stuke sort of needs to get the devil out of there. And a Flak 88 going up.
We can airdrop resources now.
And we're in fact also seeing one there. So numerous Flak 88s now from KriegDasvaterland. And 14 Jaegers advancing, clearing out one last sapper. Looks like this is the last stand of the Allies in this area. Their attempt to break through Allied Axis lines has utterly faltered, failed and floundered. While the 91st Luftlandedivision Division viciously counterattacks again and again with a bit of support from the 10th SS and what else can be scraped together from nearby stragglers and units. And the march of the Fallschirmjägers with a few Panzer grenadiers mixed in. Anti-tank gun ready to resist the Axis advance, but will it be able to resist the infantry? Probably not. Anti-tank gun cleared out in the center as KriegDasvaterland infantry advances, clearing that out. The Coldest Rifles behind could be picked up. And another strafing run, but where, oh where, I did not know. Wait, right in the center. My goodness, clearing out quite a few Volksgrenadiers. That was quite unfortunate.
They're going after a fuel point. One of ours.
You know, it rather looks like a game lost at this stage, despite the best attempts by the Allies, but well, let's save the reasoning for these after-game analysis. You know, what can we learn from this? Fallschirmjägers pushing onwards. And Fallschirmjägers clearing out the infantry.
Infantry squad lost.
Quite nicely with the FG-42s. Churchill firing away gleefully. While the Flak 88 has been seized by the Allies. My goodness. But it immediately comes under counter-artillery fire and gets cleared out again. Nebelwerfer not seized either. Airborne getting absolutely massacred. And a satchel charge in a vain attempt. Will it work? Apparently so. Educational.
Losing ground out there.
And what is this? Churchill facing off against the dreaded Hotchkisses, and Churchill gone. Well, I'd say there's not much going on. I do believe it's close to the end of the game.
Allies are down to 50 points.
And there we go. GG. Game over. A loss for the 3rd Infantry Division, despite the support of the 43rd Infantry Division of the British. The Hotchkisses and, well, the Hotchkisses mostly, I think, seem to have been proved too much. I mean, anyhow, what can we learn from this? I mean, it's nice to go support, support your ally, but at the same time, you have to sort of keep things concentrated. You have to really be on his back. You can't really just sort of hope to spread out and hold a sort of thin line, because as you might have noticed, it didn't work. I mean, they were unable to really give the push, and Vexial was able to really get the advantage ever slightly, and he was actually able to get a bit better help from KriegDasvaterland, although again, KriegDasvaterland really needs to improve. He needs to get his act together, his unit preservation, tactics, and just plain aggression. I can't really help but feel this is a bit too cheap on him, from just sort of sitting back there and not doing too much to help, and certainly not doing enough to put on the pressure on the opponent. And rather splendid to see Vexial rather holding on despite all of that, rather showing how the Hotchkiss can be used rather devastatingly, quite nicely, although it looks like he's gotten finally a Marder 3. And again, M10s are not tanks, they're tank destroyers. If you want tanks, get the M4 Sherman, and again, also the important one, do not face off against German armor from the front, flank it. There we go. Otherwise, I mean, we saw some nice work from the Allies a bit as well, but I think it was rather undermined again by the American player, who was a bit too easy to spread out his forces and not do too much. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this fight. If you did, why not subscribe or tell your friends? And if you didn't, well, why not send in a replay of your own? And this is Imperial Dane saying cheers.